Quick question. When people ask, are self-directed IRAs expensive? They're usually asking the wrong question. The real question is, what are you paying for, and does it match how you'll use the account? Today, we're breaking down self-directed IRA fees simply for you. Welcome back. I'm Nick Barker with Accuplan Benefit Services. This is our resident expert, Ben Barker, who has been in the self-directed IRA industry for honestly decades. How long has it been?
20 years, a little over 20 years.
20 years. So he's been through most of the different types of, economies, questions, whatever it may be. Ben has probably heard it. And that's why we have him here to answer our question today. So as a reminder, today and all of our videos, obviously, they're educational, but you shouldn't rely on them for tax advice, legal advice, or even investment advice. But I will say we're still pretty smart. And like I said, with over 20 years of experience from Ben, you can know that he knows what he's talking about. So today, like I mentioned, we're talking about self-directed IRA fees, where a lot of people get stuck, but let's make this simple for you guys.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about fees and why you choose Accuplan.
All right, so Ben, let's start here. Are self-directed IRA fees expensive?
In relative terms, self-directed IRA fees are typically not that expensive. When you're looking at fees, and we're going to go through a lot of the different fees that we charge, but you need to look at typically what brokers charge. What brokers charge, they usually charge a asset-based fee. So they charge you a percentage of how much you're investing. With self-directed IRAs, there are custodians that charge asset-based fees, but there are custodians that charge flat-based fees. So when you're talking about fees, you should probably look more about if this investment is right. Should I do this? It's a good fit. And after you've discovered and understand, yes, I would like to do a self-directed IRA, should I do it, and what are the fees involved in doing that?
Yeah, okay. I mean, one thing it makes me think of is it's not really about are they expensive or maybe even finding the cheapest, but maybe knowing what you're paying for and what you're using. Like, what would you need out of the account and how much would that cost?
Exactly. It's going to depend on what you're investing in. For example, if you're investing in real estate and you have a lot of transactions, transaction fees are going to be something that's important to you. If you're investing in an asset that doesn't have any transaction fees, then you may change your model about what you're wanting to absorb when it comes to transaction fees.
Okay. So with that, let's talk about those kind of buckets, fee buckets, if you will, that usually self-directed IRAs fall into.
So there's typically three different buckets. The one is an account setup fee and an annual fee. That's the first bucket. The second is transaction fees. And the third bucket is an asset-based fee, or a fee that's based per asset. So you could either be charged a percentage of how much you have in the IRA. So if you had $1 million, you have a charge there, or you have custodians that will charge you if you have multiple assets. If you have 10 different assets, it's going to be different than having one specific asset. So those are typically the three buckets that most people charge for in this industry.
Okay, with that, let's break it down even further. Really, what is each bucket of fees, and break that down a little bit more for us.
So when you're talking about a setup fee, most custodians have a setup fee to set up the account. Once the account is set up, then obviously you start to do transactions. So some custodians charge you minimum transaction fees, some give you some free fees. And so when you're looking at the investment you want to invest in, how many transactions are you going to ultimately have in the investment? That's going to matter depending on who you go with. And the third, which is the asset-specific fees, are in most cases, if you're looking at, say, a financial advisor who's managing your money, he's going to charge you an asset-based fee based on the value. If the value goes up in value, then you're going to be charged an additional fee. If your value is down, then you'll have less fees. In the self-directed IRA industry, though, Most custodians that charge an asset-based fee, it's more per asset. So you're charged, let's say, $300 a year, $400 a year, and then each additional asset, if you have real estate, that's an asset fee. If you have crypto, that's an asset fee. So looking at the assets and how many assets you want to have in an IRA will be beneficial to make sure that you're not getting hit with any unknown charges that you weren't aware of.
Well, you could even have specific fees based off the type of asset. Like, so if it's gold, it could have a separate or a different fee structure than if it was real estate, right?
Yeah, so with us, if you want to buy gold and silver, you physically buy it, we physically store it. And there is obviously going to be a storage fee that's not free. So we store all of our metals in vaults, and the vaults charge an annual fee, a setup fee, things like that. So yes, based on the asset you're going to invest in, if you want to invest in crypto, there's typically a transaction fee with crypto to purchase the transaction. So yes, you're going to want to know what type of asset you're also investing in, because that's going to change the fees as well.
Yeah. I mean, really, I guess the decision logic here, if you will, is what is your activity level going to be, and what fee should you care about based off of your activities, right? I mean, that's kind of the idea here. So let's kind of maybe move on and jump into a little bit more of maybe what the people want. What do you, Ben, see more often when someone feels surprised by the self-directed IRA fees?
If someone gets surprised, they're not knowing beforehand what they want to invest in. Real estate, for example, if you're buying a piece of property, there's typically not a lot of transactions. You buy the property. But what happens if you're buying a fix and flip, where you need to get contractors in, pay utility bills, pay taxes, insurance? All of a sudden you have a lot of transaction fees. In the case of precious metals, gold and silver, we need to physically store those metals. So understanding that if you want to invest in a specific asset, what are going to be the transactions? What are they going to look like? Are we going to need to store the asset? Are there going to be storage fees? Those are some of the concerns that most of our customers have as far as when they see issues with fees.
Yeah, I mean, again, I've kind of already said this, but it's really not usually the fee is the surprise. It might be more that, oh my gosh, I did 7 transactions, and so that gave me 7 fees. So making sure that you have an idea on how you're going to use the account can, for the most part, not leave you surprised. You'll feel pretty certain, okay, I'll probably do 2. I mean, with that, one thing that makes me wonder is how many transactions do most accounts in general have? I mean, is it...
Most transactions, most customers have probably less than 12 a year. If you're thinking about it, 1 transaction a month. The case where you do more than 12 transactions, if you're buying a property where you need to fix it up and there's going to be some transaction fees. But even with real estate, you're going to have utility bills. And that may only be once a month. You may have taxes, which is once a year. Yeah. So with crypto, with precious metals, you're going to have 1 transaction. You're going to purchase the property, purchase the metals, and you're not going to have any transactions afterwards. So we don't see a lot of transaction fees because it's a hard physical asset. They buy it and they hold it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on to maybe something that might be practical and helpful for those watching. If someone is comparing self-directed IRA options, what are the questions that they should ask before opening an account?
The first question, obviously, I would ask is, what is your annual fee and what is your setup fee? Do they have an annual fee? Do they have a setup fee? The second thing is what they can invest in. Obviously, if you're going into the self-directed IRA market, you want to buy precious metals, but a custodian does not hold precious metals, then you're not going to want to invest in that company. The third is, are there any specific transaction fees or asset-based fees? How much do they charge per transaction? How much do they charge per asset? The fourth would be, if they want to proceed and they set up the account, what's the process like to create an investment? How long does it take to fund deals? What documentation do I need in order to fund the deal? And the fifth would be, what support do I have? If I'm wanting to make an investment, are you there to help answer my questions? Do you guys leave me high and dry and I'm left to come up with my own solutions? So those are 5 questions that I would ask any custodian to make sure before you want to invest in a company.
Yeah, that's a good takeaway. I mean, if you're asking those questions, you're doing your own due diligence to make sure you're getting something you want and that's right for you. Again, it's not about the perfect maybe account or perfection, but more about avoiding surprises and you knowing what you're getting.
Exactly.
Okay, and for people wondering whether it's worth it, I'd add another question here. Does the value of having the alternative investment inside a retirement account outweigh any of the fees that you may be paying?
For sure. And I think especially right now, I have customers that invested in gold and silver, and they've been holding the gold and silver for 10 years. And gold and silver has pretty much been flat for the last, 5 years or more. And they've probably been paying maybe more transaction fees or been even on their transactions and the cost and the value of the metals. But if you look at metals today, metals have tripled. I don't know, in the last 6 months.
They've gone crazy.
And so my precious metals customers are very happy, even though they maybe paid a couple transaction fees more than they wanted to. Their value went from $50,000 to $150,000. So an extra $200-$300 a year is something minimal compared to the investment that they chose.
Yeah. Okay. One thing that I think to recap for me would be, I kind of think of these 4 buckets. 1, don't necessarily think cheap versus expensive. Just see if it's a fit. Does this seem like a good cost for me? I'm good with it. I'm not saying that you should just settle, but see if it's a good fit. 2, understand your fee buckets, right? I mean, what are you going to be paying? How are you going to be using it? And that goes into the 3rd one, is map it out. Like, okay, I'm doing real estate. Because I'm doing real estate, I have to pay from the account all the, the fees that the real estate has, all the expenses. If I'm paying somebody to work on it, it's got to come. It's going to be a transaction. So map that out. And then ask the 5 questions that Ben mentioned before you start. If you do that, you're going to be setting yourself up for success. So let's jump in specifically for everybody here at Accuplan, what we do as far as how much we charge with all the different fees. So go back through those fee buckets, if you will, Ben, and kind of explain how we charge our fees here.
With Accuplan, we do not charge an asset-based fee. So we do not charge you a 1%, 2% management fee. You could bring $1, you could bring $1 million. There's not going to be an additional cost. We do charge a flat fee of $350 per year and a $50 setup fee. So the first year, you're going to pay $400. Transaction fees, it depends. If you wire us money from your other custodian, there's going to be a $33 wire fee. If we wire out to make the investment purchase, $33 wire out fee. We do not charge you per asset. You could have 1 asset, you could have 1 million assets. It's going to be the flat $350. So with us, you need to basically understand that we're not going to charge you all of these asset-based fees. We're going to charge you a flat-based fee. We charge you additional if you get additional assets. So we don't charge you $100 extra a month or a year to have more assets. But if you add a second or a third asset, you're going to hit with a wire fee and a $10 transaction fee. So there is a transaction fee to make your second, third, fourth purchase. But ongoing, we're not going to charge you $350 plus X amount of dollars for every asset that you have.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's kind of the key here that I think about is, do I want alternative investments? I mean, myself and many people out there, like, they have investments in stocks and bonds at an advisor, and their advisor fee is 1%. It's never like a flat-based fee. It's no. Well, if we keep, what they say is, if we keep making the value of your account go up, well, then we're doing good, and so we're going to charge you more. Well, I mean, I look at it a little different than that. At the end of the day, a flat fee for investing is super cheap, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Especially when we're talking about like real estate or something. If you're buying a $500,000 property, that 1% can start to get really high, especially if you hold on to it for 7 to 10 years. Now it's let's just say it's doubled. $1 million 1% fee is huge. I'd rather have the 350.
Definitely. And if you think of our precious metals customers that 6 months ago, their values were $100,000 and today they're $300,000. If we charge an asset-based fee, their fee went from $300 a year to $600, $900 a year, just because their investment grew in value. We don't charge you based on that.
Yeah. Well, that's our podcast for today, talking about our fees and how fees in general work. If you are curious and want to know more exactly each separate fee that we charge, we have a fees page on our website. We'll also have it linked below this video. Thanks, Ben, for being here to answer the hard questions for us. We value your expertise, and hopefully everybody out there, you learned something. But always, we're here to help. Contact us today at accuplan.net, and we will get you started with a self-directed IRA.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.